What's up, guys? Welcome to Daily Dose of Reddit. This is your host, Zach, and today's subreddit is r/IDoWorkHereLady. This story's called, No, It's Not Entrapment. Not my story, but a friend who passed a few years back, who loved to tell this. I have changed the names. I'll try my best to remember the details, as it was usually told over one too many beers. Ha ha ha! As such, I'm sure it has been embellished a bit, but I'll try to remain true to the version I heard. Also, I have no law enforcement background, so if there are technical inaccuracies in process or terminology described here, that is the fault of my interpretation. Feel free to correct me. Every cop has a million stories, but when one warrants endless repetition, you know the people in that story are a special kind of stupid. This is one such story. For context, let's preface this with a retelling of an old joke. I'm sure many of you are familiar with it. Two guys are driving down the road and fly by a cop at 50 over the speed limit. The cop's lights go on and they pull over. The driver unrolls his window. The cop tells the men to exit the vehicle and stand to the side. They comply. The cop slaps the driver. "Sir, do you know why I slapped you?" "Yes, officer. I was driving too fast." The cop then slaps the passenger.
"What the hell? Why'd you slap me? He was driving."
"I thought I'd grant your wish."
"What?"
"We both know the second you guys pull away, you turn to your buddy and say, 'Man, I wish he tried that crap with me.'" The joke is amusing because we all know that attitude. Everyone has brass balls when they're not the one dealing with the cop. This is something Bill exploited well. Bill was in law enforcement. Part of his job could be thought of as lead generation, looking for illicit goods being transported, largely coming out of Native American reservations. I know meth was a common focus, or knockoff prescription drugs, car parts from car-shopped cars, etc. He had a pretty reliable system for gaining intel. He'd sit at truck stop diners in plain clothes, looking like a trucker, and have a buddy in uniform give him a hard time in front of everyone else. Questions like, "Is that rig yours? Where are you coming from? I thought I saw you miss the weigh-in." Always in the aggressive cop tone. Bill would loudly protest that he wasn't the driver of whatever random truck his cop buddy pointed to, which was true. This feigned theatrical harassment would go on for a while and the uniformed cop would leave. Unfailingly, the moment the cop left, someone would walk up to Bill and say, "Man, I can't believe these freaking pigs," and then readily exchange stories about their own run-ins with law enforcement. This is not really undercover work. Mostly it was just his way of screwing around on his lunch break. Eat a meal at a diner, see if anyone is dumb enough to take the bait. Many were. Filled with a false sense of bravado, many would walk up to Bill and tell him how they would have handled the cops, give him pointers on how to evade cops, and in the process, disclose a lot of info about their own shady dealings. As he told it, he'd snag at least one good lead a month doing this a couple times a week at various truck stops. There was a guy who we'll call Tweaker Travis. Not the sharpest kid, but he was a regular. A small-time runner who they normally wouldn't even bother with. He mostly just moved cartons of cigarettes for resale without the tax stamp off the reservation. Maybe 20 to 30 a day. Maybe a bit of pots. Illegal, but that's not what they were fishing for. They might have ignored him completely, except Tweaker Travis had seen Bill get shaken down by several different cops over the past few months, and in his meth-addled mind, had come to the conclusion that anyone getting that much police attention but never getting arrested must be well connected in the criminal underworld, and he wanted in. So what does Travis do? He writes up a resume of his criminal job experience, complete with dates and references, and hands it to Bill. Yes, he put his criminal jackets in resume form, properly formatted and everything, complete with names and phone numbers to all of his petty crime buddies, and handed it to a cop. In it, he confessed to several local burglaries, and Bill was forced to arrest him. Normally, when the badge and handcuffs came out, most people would realize they done messed up, but not our boy Travis. At first, he laughed.
"Come on, man, quit screwing around. I know you ain't no cop."
The cuffs go on and they walk toward the police car. But Tweaker Travis is falling deeper into denial. He's seen too many movies, and fiction and reality are pretty blurred in his current state of mind.
Whoa, you guys have cops on your payroll? Man, I knew you were connected, but I had no idea you had that kind of pull around here. So what are you guys moving?
Travis is back in the car, Bill is in the front, obviously, and they're driving down the road to the police station.
So hey man, where we going? Do I have an interview or something to start running for you guys? We gonna meet some bosses? The whole handcuff thing, is that some kind of initiation?
Nobody gets a word in with this guy. He's talking a million words a minute in typical Tweaker fashion. They're halfway through booking him in before he begins to suspect something is wrong. Finally, he pauses for a moment and goes silent as the gravity of what's happening begins to sink in. At this point, it's been about 45 minutes since the whole fiasco began, and Bill can finally get a word in. In his best cop voice, Bill explains,
"Dude, you need to shut up now and call a lawyer. This is not a test or an initiation. I showed you a real badge, handcuffed you, put you in a police cruiser, drove you to the police station."
Yeah, but that doesn't make sense. You're not a cop. You don't work here.
"Yes, I am a cop. I showed you my badge."
Wait, why am I under arrest? You didn't tell me you were a cop. This is entrapment.
Cue the next 16 hours of this is entrapment, over and over again. One of the other cops there, after Bill left, apparently recorded it and made it into a techno remix that became the unofficial department ringtone for a while, before it was officially deemed unprofessional, potentially problematic legally, but funny as hell in a memo. If anyone reading this has a copy, please personal message me. I would love to post it and it would protect my source. Haha. It would have been Bill's birthday next month and I know his kids would love a copy of it. Rest in peace, Bill. Seemed like a hell of a dude. Whether he passed away in the line of duty or you choked to death on a grape. Still a really cool guy from this story. I appreciate it. I wonder how many other police officers have similar stakeout sort of tactics like this, where instead of an actual full-on stakeout, it's just, something you do on your lunch break for extra incel. Either way, really cool story. Appreciate the share. Also, thank your police officers. It's a thankless job a lot of the time, but it's one we need to have out there in our worlds. Because of people like Tweaker Tom. Actually, no. I feel like Tweaker Tom is doing a sort of victimless crime thing. The only victim is the government's greedy ass. This story's called Poor Assistant Manager Just Trying to Do Her Job, but Won't Let Me Do Mine. I had forgotten about this story, probably due to beer number 30, until my wife reminded me. Backstory: I'm an electrical engineer for a steel company. The owner who I work for has a sister and brother-in-law that own multiple McDonald's. Knowing that I also do the IT at my company, my owner one year, around 2006-07, came to me with a problem his sister was having in her home office where she ran her business. No problem, side work. I go to her house and clean everything up, get her stuff back up and running, and continue to do that each month because she is really cliquey and tends to mess stuff up bad due to impatience. Fast forward to 2008 and the recession hits. I'm over there one day and casually mention that my wife was looking for daytime work now that our youngest son is in school. She is promptly hired. A month later, and they decided to move the office to a real office instead of her, luxurious, really it was, basement. There was nothing in this office. At all. It used to be a plumber's shop. I'm promptly hired and put on retainer to get the office up and running. New computers, new printers, server, all wiring, remote access, all the bells and whistles. It took a month. Fast forward about 10 years later, and my wife is now the office manager. I'm still on a monthly retainer for all IT work needed. I've also, over those 10 years, helped in some stores when new things pop up, like adding things to the network to be able to use our local university's college kids' stipend cards, etc. All the store managers know me, all the regional managers know me, all the directors know me, and of course, the owners know me. Heck, we all go out once a year on a bus trip to Cleveland or someplace and get hammered together. Now, the night in question. My wife and I had just gotten done having a few drinks after work and were making our way back to our house about 6 blocks away when I decided to go get a dinner box from one of our McDonald's for us and our 2 sons still living with us. 2 Big Macs, 2 regular cheeseburgers, 10-piece chicken nuggets, and 4 small fries. I pull into the drive-thru and place the order. The young lady instantly comes back and says they are not accepting credit cards currently and can only accept cash. I'm confused for a second because cashless, as they call it, only goes down briefly around 2 a.m. for some audits or something, my wife says. It's 9 p.m. I have cash on me, so it isn't an issue. I get to the window and pay and ask about the cashless being down to the girl, who me or my wife don't know. McDonald's turnover rate, you get it. She briefly mentioned something about one of the readers being knocked over, so I say, okay, I'll be right in. She looks at me a little curious, but says nothing. I park and walk in the side door with my wife to try and sort out what's going on when the young lady says that I'm not permitted behind the counter. I get it, you don't know me or my wife, so I ask her to get her shift manager real fast. She does, and just my bad luck, it's an assistant manager that had just recently been promoted, and I don't know her either, nor does my wife. I try to explain that I work IT for the office, which she can see if you look over my right shoulder out the window, and that I was going to look and see what was going on with cashless to try and get it back up. I introduce my wife by name and mention that she's the office manager at the main office, and I point and can vouch for me. She still isn't letting me behind the counter. I'm not angry or upset about this, as she really is just doing her job, and nicely as well. I nod understandingly and pull out my phone. I swipe through my contacts and stop at the store manager and bring it up and show her, asking if we should call her by name. I swipe through my contacts again to the regional manager and do the same, showing her my phone and calling her by name. I then do the same thing with the director of operations and then both owners. I finally just said, pick one. I know cashless is the main payment method and every moment it's down costs quite a bit. The light bulb went off and she nodded. My wife, the beautiful social butterfly she is, strikes up a conversation with the newly promoted assistant manager and starts talking shop as I head to the drive-thru to begin diagnosing things. Someone had accidentally knocked over one of the card readers, and they aren't small, and somehow pulled the cords out. A quick inspection revealed that the female RJ45 port had somehow got multiple of the contacts bent. Bad. Some were shorting together. Others bent down in a way there was no way to make contact with the male cord itself. I'm assuming the ones that were shorting were causing the main hub of it to flip out, so I set about trying to bend the pins back into shape, somewhat. I plug everything back in, reboot it, and voila! Cashless is back in about 5 minutes. The assistant manager thanks me, and I just say to leave a little note that I was there and what I did. My wife says she'll also mention it in the office to the regional managers. I got an attaboy from the owners for that one, and a free chocolate shake. My boy over here calling it an RJ45 port when he could have just called it Ethernet. And yes, that was me flexing my somewhat very limited IT knowledge. Anyways, this was quite the wholesome story with no real drama, but it was still a pleasure to read all the way through. Also, good on your wife for sticking to that job for 10 years and working her way up to office manager. That's pretty good stuff. I'm curious, any of you mothers in the comments, have any of y'all done a similar thing as the wife here where after the kids finally started school, did you go to work? And if you did, was this like your first time working because you guys needed the extra money? Or did you return to work after like 6 years of not working? And how did y'all adjust? Was it hard? Was it weird? What was it? Also, guys, I do read comments. And just in case you think I'm ignoring you, I'm not. I'm acknowledging internally because I don't really want to respond to comments because I can't. So yes, I appreciate all the kind comments y'all leave me, especially like the 4 ladies who are always saying really sweet things to me in the comments and defending my honor. I appreciate it. This story's called, After 30 Years, the Karens Break Me. Sorry about formatting, I'm not a professional writer. This incident happened 20 years ago. I was 30 years old. I have written elsewhere about my encounter with a Karen and work. Basically telling my boss I was a junkie and was trying to rob the restaurant. Being called a junkie because I have familial tremors that make my hand shake. Thinking I was going through withdrawals because she had seen me take my medications. My boss was training me to be the general manager of the restaurant, but first I had to learn all the stations. The back of the house, prep, cook, fry cook, kitchen manager, and now for the front of house, busboy, greeter, and on to the server station. Customers did inquire about my hand shaking. I told them what it was, but when I'm focused on a task, they do not shake. For 2 weeks, I served customers their orders without so much as one drop of water spilled. And then, one of our most busy days of the year, they entered. 4 Karens and were seated in my section. I gave them their waters, waited a bit, and when I thought that they had enough time, I asked if they were ready to order. They said yes. Then as I wrote their orders, they noticed my hand shaking. I walked to the kitchen. I heard whispers from them.
Did you see his hand shake? Ask for a martini, shaken not stirred. I bet the kitchen saves money on blenders.
As always, that's so mean. As always, I took a deep breath and let it go. All my life, I was made fun of because of my familial tremors. In school, kids would slap my lunch tray out of my hands and say,
"You need to get those shaky hands under control."
When I would pick up my tray, sometimes they would spill milk on my head. But I learned to take it because being bullied had followed me all my life. I came back with their salads and soups, and as I walked away, I heard a crash. 2 salads were on the floor. A Karen shouted,
"Look what you did! You spilled our salads! Your hand shakes so much it rattled the table and knocked our food off the table. You should be on disability! You are a danger to yourself and others!"
I took a deep breath. I told her I couldn't have knocked them off from this distance.
"Well, you placed our salads on the edge of the table with your hand shaking and knocked it over."
It was probable I may have. I was really wiped out from serving. I apologize, cleaned up the mess. As I did, a Karen asked for a new server, but everyone was slammed. As I left, I heard more comments. Customers were looking at me and a few said it wasn't my fault, they saw everything. I forced a smile and told them I know. I returned with the Karen's 2 salads, saw some of the mess I missed from the previous salad. As I knelt to pick it up, I felt a bowl of salad hit me on the head and heard a glass of water knock over and felt it spill onto my head. The Karen screamed to talk to Mr. S, the owner. They spewed lie after lie about how clumsy I am. I shouldn't be allowed to work in public. Mr. S asked me if what they said was true, even though he knew it wasn't. For the first time ever, the bullies had won. My voice cracked as my eyes watered up. All I could do was barely say no. When a customer spoke up for me, I couldn't take it. It was the first time a complete stranger stood up for me. As I walked away, I heard Mr. S say,
"Get your freaking purses. Get the hell out of my restaurant, you evil cooters!"
As I made my way to the employee restroom, trying to keep it together as tears dripped off my cheeks. I rushed through the kitchen and into the restroom and cried and cried. A 30-year-old adult man crying nonstop. 30 years of pent-up tears, anger, and sorrow. I didn't realize it, but I had been in there for half an hour. I walked out of the bathroom. The kitchen was dead quiet. I clocked out, and as I walked through the dining room, I heard light murmurs and felt eyes on me. I told Mr. S I would see him tomorrow. Mr. S patted me on the back and said, "Sure thing." I wish this had a happy ending, but it didn't. I returned to work the next day and nobody spoke of it. Since. Neither have I till now. Well, first off, that is a good ending, at least in my opinion. You got stood up for. You didn't really get any negative repercussions from that other than the emotional scarring that undoubtedly occurred that day. Just think about it like this. The toxic, evil bullies are gone, and those that had your back are probably still there, Mr. S. Or not anymore, because it's 20 years ago now. But, the customer was probably regular maybe. Who knows? All you know is that you had support, and that support stuck around. Also, I 100% understand losing it when someone stuck up for you. Because think about it, when you're a kid and you get hurt, and you don't really feel like crying because it doesn't hurt that bad, and then someone says, "Oh my god, are you okay?" Floodgates open. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that bell to never miss an episode.